Welcome, everyone. I'm Maria Lourdes Terán, Vice President of the Council of the Americas in Miami, and I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to today's Bravo Leadership Conversation. The Bravo Leadership Forums have become our signature platform for engagement and dialogue, bringing together Latin America's business leaders to promote cross-industry collaboration on critical issues impacting the region. These conversations offer a rare glimpse into the challenges and triumphs of remarkable business visionaries, pioneers, and entrepreneurs from Latin America who are transforming their industries and driving positive impact in their fields. This year, we're making these conversations into a special series you can watch on YouTube, LinkedIn, or as a podcast on your platform of choice. Today, we hear from João Vitor Menin, Global CEO at Inter&Co. Inter&Co pioneered digital banking in Brazil, providing financial and non-financial solutions to over 32 million clients through its super app. In recent years, the bank has significantly solidified its presence in the United States, reaching its NASDAQ listing and gaining strategic acquisitions. João will be interviewed by James Allen, a former U.S. Navy lieutenant and 30-year veteran at Morgan Stanley. Their riveting conversation provides a window into João's leadership, the bank's digital revolution, and expansion into the U.S. market. Before we begin, I want to thank the sponsors of our year-long Bravo series, the Inter-American Development Bank, the AES Corporation, Amazon Web Services, Chubb Latin America, Inter&Co, LLYC, Atlas Renewable Energy, Bank of America, Grupo Mariposa, Grupo Promérica, Moody's, Salesforce, SAP, BlackRock, and FedEx, as well as our media partners, America's Quarterly, CNN Español, and Bloomberg Linea. And we hope you will join us in Miami on October 30th during this year's symposium and 29th annual Bravo Business Awards, where you can meet many of these visionaries in person. You can go to our website at www.as-coa.org/Bravo 2024. Now, let's get started with today's conversation.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. It's great to see so many people out here who want to hear what we hopefully want to hear what we're going to be talking about. So, João, maybe let's just start at kind of the beginning, sort of how Inter came to be. Some of the folks here might know a little bit that, but I imagine a lot don't. So, I think you started working in the business as like a young 22-year-old or something like that. It was a part of the family business. A small part at that time. I actually think maybe back then a pretty small, mostly regional factoring company was maybe the least sexy part of the family business. So how did you land there, and why did you land there?
Okay, so before we start, Maria, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. As we were chatting in the forum, we want to share our experience to help, in a sense, other companies to try to expand to America. Like we have a folk here that did that, so thank you for the invitation. So Jim, going back to the question, it was back in 2004, and it was not a easy decision, to be honest. I was graduating in civil engineer, and the biggest and the most, I would say, permanent business of the family was real estate. So imagine, I was supposed to be working in the real estate business. And then Rubens, with still our chairman and controlling shareholder today, approached me and said, why don't you try to go to Inter? As you mentioned, a very small factoring business based out of Belo. And I decided to take a shot. At that time, I was already getting more involved with finance and with capital markets and this type of things I was reading about. And as being an engineer, it's easy for you to connect with these things. So it was an important decision for me, I'd say, but luckily was the right call at the time. And I started as an internship. So I was, as I mentioned, graduating, but I didn't want to drop the real estate business of the family. So I had to change my school to the night shift. So I was in the morning in the afternoon at the MRV, the home builder. But after 1 year, I decided to leave the real estate business and focus on the banking business.
And I think it was about 2008 that Inter&Co became a full-up bank. And if I think about the banking sector in Brazil by then, it was already heavily consolidated. I mean, you've got giant banks, whether they're private like Itaú or state-owned like Banco do Brasil. So it certainly sounds like you were setting yourselves up for a bit of a David versus Goliath. You know, where did you get the idea? Oh, we start as a little pipsqueak and actually, I don't want to say take on those guys, but find enough of the market to be really meaningful in the face of, you know, these enormous players.
No, good. So first of all, I mean, when I entered the business back in 2004, I didn't know how entrenched these big players in Brazil were. And when you start to understand about the segment, about the industry, say, oh, these guys, they have a lot of edge to compete with us because they have a very good cost of funding, they have their brand, they have their branch network all over Brazil. But the thing is, when you have something that is tough for you to do, you always try to come with a very innovative idea, and that's when things emerge. So say, how can we do things different? Because if we are about to compete on the same environment with the same approach, we're not going to succeed. So actually, it was after 2008. So 2008, we transformed the factory into a bank. But I would say that 2014, we decided that to compete, we had to become a retail bank. And to become a retail bank in Brazil, in a very competitive market, as you mentioned, we had to come up with something different. And our idea was, so let's try to, instead of building our branch network, let's try to do that through the smartphones. And at that time, the Brazilians, I mean, almost 100% of the Brazilians, they had a good connectivity already. But they didn't have a good service on the bank sector. They used to be, and they still are, to be honest, underserved and overcharged. So we decided, okay, so we're going to start digital, but we're going to launch the first ever free digital account in Brazil. And I would say that you mentioned the Davi versus Goliath. Sometimes when you don't have a lot to lose, it's easier for you to try to disrupt things. And for the incumbents, it's harder for them to disrupt their own balance sheet, their own profit pool. So I like to say that it was an expensive call option to buy. So if it works, great. If it doesn't, no problem. I mean, we're still going to have a small banking business based out of Belo. So this is what happened. And I was chatting here at the beginning with guys from MasterCard, AWS. And at the time, these things were available for us. So a very good card network, a very good cloud provider. So we were able, with not a big investment, to put all the things together. So it's more like trying to make this puzzle work, and we're able to launch that, and then things start to work really well for us, and that's it.
How important were some of those enablers? You mentioned AWS. I think you guys maybe were the first bank anywhere to say, we're going to do this without owning our own data center, our own servers, et cetera. But to be fair, I mean, what AWS was making available to you, they were making it. I mean, anybody could go get that. So how important was that as sort of an enabler for what you're trying to do?
No, yes, I agree. So first of all, good that it was available for everyone, which means it's accessible. It's not expensive. So that's the beauty of technology. So it's accessible for everyone. But the thing is, sometimes it's good to be a latecomer, because instead of being ahead, we were behind. So we haven't built at the time, because actually we didn't have money to do so, our own data centers.
That's an advantage.
Yes, that's an advantage, because the big players in Brazil, they have invested billions literally in their own data centers. So they couldn't, I would say, afford to just write off that investment and migrate to cloud. So we started with a clean a sheet of paper. So let's do that cloud-based. And we were fortunate to meet with guys from AWS at the time. Also, very important, the central bank was prone to help the disruptors to improve the banking system. So they collaborate with both us and AWS to make it available. It was not, before it was not available for you to host the data in cloud. And so then we started in a smart way, and that's the beauty of technology. That's the beauty of being a very innovative company. You don't need a lot of budget to start. So that's the approach we had.
You know, a lot of fintechs, and I guess it's a broad enough label that it's probably kind of meaningless nowadays, but a lot of them have started with or even continued to focus on really like a single product or a single sort of core competency. And I guess Inter had the advantage of starting as a bank, not as a payments processor or, you know, something related. But you've gone way beyond core banking by now. And I would say that, you know, I was an investment banker for many years covering companies, and I don't know how many times we would have told them, you know, the market wants you need to focus on your core competency. What do you have a competitive advantage in? That's what matters. You guys have continued to add to the platform well beyond sort of core banking. What was your thinking when you first started doing that we needed to do that, as opposed to we got something working right here on the free accounts, the digital bank. We need to turn it into a super app.
Okay. I would say, Jim, that it came to my mind once that almost everything that we do today are related to the bank segment. So for you to get a car, you need to pay. For you to travel, you need to get credit or whatever. To go over here, you need a MasterCard to pay for whatever, your cappuccino in the coffee shop. So I like to say that everything at the end of the day is connected to a payment process. And so we thought, look, we don't have yet a big lending portfolio where you can make a lot of money on that. So let's try to offer a lot of service to our clients using this banking backbone to provide this service. Therefore, we're going to make a very good revenue stream on fees, which doesn't require a lot of equity, a lot of capital. And again, because we have this lean IT infrastructure, because we started from zero, from the scratch, it was easier for us to connect all the components using all the microservices powered by AWS, and to say, oh, let's try. Let's see how far can we go. So let's start offering whatever, the insurance. Good, we're able to connect the component and put it in place. And we realized that every new product that we're adding to the ecosystem, the upsell and cross-sell among our customers were improving. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to say, oh, let's keep doing that. And long story short, today we have more than 140 different features in our app. And I would say that as of today, this is one of the things that differentiate ourselves more compared to other digital banks. So we're very proud of this approach, of this idea, and how we're able to put technology in place to connect to wire everything,
right,
using this banking backbone as the thing too.
With an approach that is, we make that as easily accessible for our customers in the same way that they're already using our app for banking or payment. It's just simple. It sounds like it's a modular addition from a technology perspective, but from a user perspective, it's just kind of more good stuff on the same platform.
Yes, it is, but at the same time, and I'm very obsessed with that, you need to be very good on the UX UI. So how can you conveniently add these features to a bank app? Because at the end of the day, you need to provide things that are important for the bank segment, but also you need to put a screen, a feature or whatever there that connects really well and makes your life easier. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is to bring convenience. How can we bring more convenience to our clients? So instead of having, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 different apps to do most of the things that you know on a daily basis, you can do everything through our app. So this was the idea behind. So we need to make sure that the UX and UI for the app is very good to facilitate the day-to-day of our clients.
So I guess for those who might not already know that UX is user experience and UI is user interface.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you interact with that human being who's staring at the screen, or how the system interacts with them, and vice versa. How do you kind of design that, test that? Do you test that with your own employees? Do you focus group? I mean, because if you think about, as you keep saying, that's like a critical piece of your competitive advantage. So how do you make sure that yours is better than anybody else's?
Good. So first of all, I would say that we have this. We like this type of thing. So myself as a CEO, this is, I would say, that where I spend most of my time. So I'm really focused on that. And then we have this culture thing on the company to improve the UX and the UI. And also, important to say that we have the technology behind to help us to make it happen. So as I was telling, using all the microservices with AWS and using everything, GIO, CTOCS, being able to connect these things easy, we can, without spending a lot, and not only a matter of the budget, but without taking too many months or weeks or years, we can launch a new version of our app every month or so. So as of today, I think we launched maybe more than 100 versions of our app. And every new version that we launch, we're fine-tuning the product offering, how we improve the UX, and to do so, we need to rewire things on the back end. So having the technology and also the mindset and being obsessive with the experience that we want to offer to our client allow us to be ahead of the competition.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got from this smallish family-controlled business to now 3-point-something billion market cap, NASDAQ listed company, where, by the way, CEO, the CTO, the CFO are all primarily resident here in Miami now, right? Mm-hmm. So you didn't go the venture capital route. You IPO'd the business in 2018. Mm-hmm. So it was by then a fully digital bank. Some people might have said it was still kind of early in the evolution of the company to IPO, but how did being public, now it was public in Brazil to start with on the B3, how did that change how you have to, or you chose to, kind of manage the bank and manage the growth of the bank?
Yes, it changed a lot, Jim, to be honest, because when you migrate a company from being private to public, you start having a lot of shareholders, and that's the purpose of going public.
Life would be great if it weren't for those pesky shareholders,
then,
right?
Then it's, yeah.
His CFO's laughing over there, you know, but only a little bit.
Yeah, so then it's another part of the equation in our stakeholders that you need to address. But at the end of the day, you need to be very careful with this approach, because otherwise you're going to be running your company for the short term and not for the long term. And this is what we discuss a lot with Santos, our CFO, and with the rest of the group, because it's good everything in life you have the pros and the cons. So by listing the company, we're able to get access to equity, to a very good cost of equity, a very cheap cost of equity at the time mostly. But on the other hand, it comes all the minority shareholders, everything. But at the end of the day, I would say that having the shareholders pushing you, if you have the right approach, not to do things for the short term, but balance the two, is also good, because we improve the management of the company, we improve how we are operating the business. So I would say it's a win-win situation. We have this new way of running the business, but generating value for ourselves, for the shareholders, for the employees, and at the end of the day, this is the beauty of the capital markets, to have the ability to raise equity, to promote the growth of the business, of a business that was supposed to be not that big as it is today if you were a private owned
Sure.
company. So I would say actually that we were very, very fortunate to start our lives in capital markets at the time that the cost of equity was good, so the funds were available for us to bring it to our company and to grow the business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to be lucky as well. So.
You've been back to the market several times. I think you've done 3 follow-ons. And one of those, SoftBank, became your largest non-family shareholder. So I don't know if that sort of brought a little bit of VC type thinking to the company. They were on the board for a while, but they're not anymore. Then in 22, you moved to NASDAQ as your primary listing. How did that change much for you? I suppose, I mean, you were public already, but, you know, I think we've seen this certainly in our investment banking business. I've seen this trend where a lot of the important companies and important listings now really are in the U.S. That's where the money is.
Yeah. No, actually, first regarding SoftBank, I mean, to be honest, it didn't really change the way we're running the business. And to be honest and to be fair, they were and they're still a very good shareholder. They never imposed us any type of direction to the business. They never asked us to go over here while we were planning to go over there. So, and they were always there, as you mentioned. We had like 3 or 4 rounds of equity offerings. So they were always there supporting us on this transaction. So it helped us a lot, way more than I could ever imagine, to be honest. And regarding NASDAQ, it's interesting because the main reason why we decided to list the company in NASDAQ and migrating from B3, the exchange Brazil, to NASDAQ was because of the super voting structure that is not allowed to have in Brazil. The super voting, for the ones that are not familiar, we can have a 10-to-1 voting power. And we want to have that because, as you mentioned, we want to look the business for the long-term perspective, and being public, sometimes you don't have more than 50% of the shares, and then you cannot commit to your long-term goals. So we wanted to have this structure, and then we decided to migrate to NASDAQ. But being 2 years since we did that, we realized that we got more things than just the super vote. And so we're able to improve our cap table. So the quality of the investors that are supporting Inter today improved a lot. We were able to also to improve our corporate governance because we're obliged to do so being a NASDAQ listed company. So I would say that we decided to do that for one specific reason, but as of today, I believe that we have achieved many other important things by being listed here on NASDAQ.
And now you've got a lot of the senior management living here in Miami, spending a majority of your time here, still probably going back to Brazil constantly, but did those two things go together, or were the decisions to be here in Miami, what was that based on? And maybe as the follow-up to that, have you gotten out of that what you were hoping to when you picked up and moved your family here and moved your chief technology officer here?
It's interesting because sometimes things in life, they just happen, Jim. So we were planning the NASDAQ listing since, I would say, mid-2021. On 2021, because we were thinking about going to NASDAQ, so let's think about the market in US. And at that time, so they're not that developed in terms of digital bank as Brazil was. And then we had the opportunity to buy a fintech here, specializing in the remittance. So we put our foot on the ground here. And then we had the migration to NASDAQ. And then we realized that the business that we had and still have in Brazil were quite easy to replicate here in the US. And then we decided to move one step more forward. So then we set up a broker dealer. We set up other things here in the US. So we kept growing the business, and I decided to change. And because of that, it's at the time we were just focused. Let's serve Americans in US with the same approach we have in Brazil, with all the convenience of the super app. But we realized that at the end of the day, we can serve Brazilians, Argentinians, Chileans, guys from Latin America, from Europe, because at the end of the day, Jim, I would say that what our plans today for US is not only to serve clients that are here in US, but to serve clients that are doing business, visiting, traveling to US, and because at the end of the day, we're talking about the largest economy, dollar-based, so we like to see that as like a heart that pumps money in and out every single day. So having this conduit in place, having this approach, having the technology, we believe that we can serve. Today, we serve a lot of Brazilians for obvious reasons. They used to be, and they are a client in Brazil, so they opened the account here. But in our roadmap, we want to start offering we call the global account solution to other individuals. I mean, retail-oriented, not B2B. So that's our master plan for the global account. For instance, you mentioned that, we have the capital markets here very, very well developed, and then Inter changed it to US, and you have a lot of companies, for instance, from Argentina that are listed here. So imagine a retail client that is in Argentina or is in Portugal. Most likely, it's not going to invest in the local stock market. It's going to invest in US. But for them, it's not convenient to come here, open accounts, set up account in a broker-dealer and buy whatever, a Tesla stock or Apple stock. So how can we facilitate that through a good app, a good technology? So we believe that there's a lot of things to do here.
And you've got, 3 million Brazilian
yes, they have more than
account
3 million
holders who also have a US dollar account here with Inter. Yeah, so you've kind of proven that it has appeal if you can originate it in another local market abroad, right? So, if I look at some of the other of your peers, like they've taken a different approach to international expansion. They've gone, we're just going to rebuild what we do in Brazil, in Colombia, and in Mexico. They've been very aggressive about doing that. You've got it's kind of a different approach, which is, I think, you came to the U.S. with an idea as a first country outside of the home country, not to Mexico or Colombia or Chile or wherever. And was the idea about this could be a global thing? It's not necessarily just a U.S. thing. Was that a secondary thing that came along, or was that part of this original move to the U.S.?
Okay, so to be totally honest, at first I thought that, so U.S. is a gigantic market. So
Which
if
it is.
Things work over there like we did in Brazil, excellent. But as I mentioned, we start working with things, and then we're always adjusting the route. And as of today, I believe that the best approach for us and the best way for us to build something unique is to use U.S. as an important foundation, but not necessarily only serve U.S. citizens, but to serve people all over the world that wants to invest, to do business here, for instance, as of today, millions of Latin Americans, they work remotely for any kind of company, any kind of industry, and they need to get paid in US dollars. So how can they do that? So if you get, for instance, guys that receive from Google AdSense, guys that, in Argentina, they are coding for whatever. So how can we facilitate the lives of these clients? So having this global account approach, we realize that we can increase our addressable market. And at the end of the day, having the global account, which is dollar-based and based out of US, you can always also serve the Americans. So
sure,
it's not one or the other. It's
perhaps
both,
with the advantage that if I think about countries in Latin America where you cannot even open a dollar account.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some you can, but there's some you cannot.
Yeah.
So being able to do that somewhere else, but it's as easy as I can pick up my phone and make it happen. I certainly can see how that could be a great,
sure,
universally appealing product.
That's true. They like to say that if you want to do something that is going to have a big impact, you need to think about the pain points of your future customer. And then when you think how hard it is for you, as you mentioned, not only to open account, but to transfer money abroad, to buy a stock here in the stock market, or to, get a mortgage here or whatever. So when you solve this type of things, your product offering can become viral, and therefore you don't need to invest millions, billions of dollars in go-to-market. The clients, they can do that for you. By the way, that's what happened to us in Brazil. So again, we were competing with the incumbent bank that had a very big budget, marketing budget,
Yeah.
but we had a good product that solved an important pain point for that segment, and then things start to happen very fast. So that's also the approach, to solve an important pain point, and then your product can really grow through word of the mouth.
So when you were a pioneer in just the whole idea of a digital account, a lot of the name of the game then was reaching the unbanked population. And I guess, particularly in Brazil, it's been a fantastic example of, if that was the number one goal when you started out, you and some of the peers, multiple companies, have really achieved that. You know, there's now more bank accounts in Brazil than people. Doesn't mean 100% of Brazilians have one, but the point is, it's been a radical change in who's connected to the modern financial system. Where you've gone since then is a little bit more, maybe in response to that, which is, at some point, just having someone who has an account with you is interesting, but not that interesting if they also have an account with the other guys and the other guys. And it's all about being their primary home for, I guess to start with, is banking. But talk a little bit about all the additional verticals you've added to Inter to try to make sure you're their primary home for more than that.
Okay, good. So we were just talking about the global account. So as you mentioned, you might have one client in Brazil that have maybe 2, 3 different accounts. But when they realize that, for instance, they can have in the same app, with one click, the access to a US account, it makes a difference. It's about convenience. It's about the value proposition that we offer. So every time we add this new functionalities, we like to say that we have the clients more dependent on our ecosystem. And then it's hard for them to just switch. Say, okay, I'm going to shut down my account at Inter, but look, no. So I need to open a global account elsewhere. I need to open an account in Brazil. I need also in Brazil to have an investment account. I need to have a place where I can place my insurance. So it starts to become like a big burden for the client to migrate. And you are very obsessed, as I mentioned, with the quality of the service that you provide. So at the end of the day, I mean, not only is convenient because they have almost everything there, but it's a good service. It's not a so-so service. It's a very good service.
Well, that's the user
yeah.
interface and experience that's so important.
Exactly. So this is all about. That's the approach that we.
So you've added things like the marketplace, shopping. But it's not just shopping. You've got the loyalty program. Talk about how is that all? You know, back in the bad old days when I was a telecom industry banker, people used to talk about how the nirvana was if you could create a walled garden and everybody not only had no reason ever to leave your garden that you managed and controlled, but that they couldn't.
Yeah.
Now the reality is, I mean, that was the AOL in the 90s. If any of you are old enough to remember the 90s, I am. That didn't play out so well as it turned out, because it's really hard to tell people mine is better than the other guys for everything. And by the way, even though I think people absolutely appreciate having everything available at your fingertips, to your point, but if my widget or my service or whatever that's at their fingertips isn't as good as something they can easily get somewhere else, they'll just go somewhere else. So how much success have you had, for example, with like using the marketplace to help make sure that you're the primary home for all things financial for your customers?
Good. But before I answer that, one important thing, Jim, the reason why I told I'm obsessed with this UX, UI, and customer service, because as of today, it's very easy for people to migrate. And because this is the beauty of technology. the same way it was easy for us to put a product in place, it's easy for other guys to put a competitive product in place. So if you don't are really looking for a client, you're going to lose him faster than in the past. In the past, okay, the guy's going to take, I don't know, 2-3 years. Today, it's like that. So we need to be very, very focused, very, very obsessed with the product offering that we have. So this is very important. But also connecting with the other question about how did we come with the idea of putting these ancillary products on the app? For instance, the marketplace that you mentioned. Some of them, we came up with the idea because we have a problem at the system. And in Brazil, probably most of the clients of the audience here are not familiar, but we have a very complicated product in terms of consumer finance, because the banks, they finance through the credit cards the clients that go to the retailers, and they buy it in 10, 15, 12 installments without interest. And therefore, it's not a good equation between what the bank is rewarded for the risk that it's taken there. Mm-hmm. So we realized that if you could get some of the economics of the retailers through our ecosystem, we were able to kind of offset, to improve this risk reward. And how could we get some of these economics to our ecosystem? Okay, so we're going to approach the industry and say, look, I have a lot of clients, a bunch of clients with a credit in place, with a card in place, that they could, like that, buy your product in my app. And not only that, you will not need to advertise in the platforms, on the TV, on the billboards. So you know exactly who is buying. You're going to pay me only for the client that I will convert to your product. So we were able to offer, to charge them a take rate for that. And with this take rate, we're able to balance the risk reward of the consumer finance in Brazil. So we had a problem with the economics of the credit card. So we came up with this idea in order to improve. And again, we're able to connect. And as of today, we have thousands of SKUs available in our app. So this year we should be doing 6 billion reais, so $1.2, $1.3 billion in GMV in sales in our marketplace, in our shop, we call Inter&Co. So, and then the economics is much better.
I'm just going to ask one other thing here, because no conversation we could be complete nowadays without talking about AI, right? You got to talk about AI. You've got, now I went to your tech day in New York in May. It was all about how the platform supports this hyper-personalization, which is every person perceives or receives a different presentation, a different menu, a different sort of proactive serving up of what might be useful for them. How much of your platform is based on using AI to continue to sort of stay ahead of the next guy who also can buy AI from Microsoft or Open or ChatGPT or whomever? How are you using that to stay ahead, and how important is AI now for your, let's call it, continued innovation?
Okay, it's a very good question. And as we spoke before, technology is available. I mean, it's not expensive. It's available. You have many different providers. But first, you need to have the will to do so. As I want to use, I want to buy it. Then you need to have the ability to integrate things, and having a very, to be honest, a very developed IT backbone at Inter. It's easier for us to integrate AI, for instance, machine learning. And we like to say that we're not there yet. We still have to put more AI and more data intel, but as long as we have already started doing so, we see that you can serve better your client. Remember about the UI and the UX. Yeah. So if I can get fast, important data from millions of clients, can crunch it in an easy way, not rocket science, and I can therefore offer on the top of the app a product that you're willing to buy, and not a product that I'm willing to buy but doesn't make sense for you, then your client is going to say, look, this app is good interface, good experience. And then if you also get that to improve the credit limit that I'm going to offer you, then you'll be able to buy things in our app because we have a credit limit. So I would say that in a bank ecosystem, we have the things of the data to do this type of cross-selling, but also to on, I would say, on the offensive side of the business to sell more, but also on the defensive side of the business, fraud, credit risk.
scoring.
Yes, I would say that on the defensive side, we have been more developed so far in terms of using data, AI data, because it's more of what we do. So checking the right risk for the right client and to avoid fraud and so on. And I would say that now we're more on the offensive side to improve cross-sell through better UX, UI on the app. And the good news is, I like to say, and I talk a lot that to Guy or Cito, by being a digital player, by not having physical locations, the quantity and the quality of data that we gather from the clients is very accurate. It's very good. So it's fast as available. So having the right engine, we can come to the right conclusion. So if we're having the guys stepping into our brands and putting information on the paper, it would be harder for us to. So it helps a lot.
Great. Well, it's really pretty impressive that Inter's gone from where you started with the intern to where it is today. I would note just last week, Inter did get added to the MSCI, LATAM, and Brazil indexes. Part of that is because you guys have worked to get the market cap of the company now up above the minimum threshold, which is, I think, around $3 billion. So it's a trajectory that's been pretty impressive so far, but long way to go, I guess.